It was 1972. The streets of the cities were filled with violence and chaos. Acts of cruelty were across the board, and frankly, it did not matter whether you were an innocent bystander or not. It was just then as it was documented. Martial law under Proclamation Number 1081 was signed on the 21st of September of the same year by former President and dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr., which thus began a series of relentless and ruthless inhumane exploitations that filled the once liberated Philippines before this fateful turnout of events. Many facilities and media outlets were shut down following this declaration. It was essentially the death of press freedom, killed upon the order of the former president and dictator. Amidst it all came the darkness. However, against the currents, there also came light, a glimmer of hope, a flame of revolution and resistance within the hearts of the Filipino people, done through different forms of media to evoke and awaken the very same flame ignited within the darkness of this crisis. Cinema was one of the many art forms of media used by Filipinos to convey messages of the harsh reality experienced amid censorship and oppression during the Marcos regime, although these were to be regulated before filming, let alone release. Hence, the Board of Regulators, the Board of Censors for Motion Pictures, prohibited those political or explicitly critical of the then current administration. That being said, themes of sex and violence were still present during this era of film. Essentially, films with such tropes dominated, or perhaps were those that became most notable during this period in the Philippine history of cinema, which we would define as cinemas of resistance. With that, welcome to Kakayahang Babae, a synthesis on women at work as depicted in cinemas of resistance. Films make it so that people understand a story through cinematography, sound design, editing, and many more aspects. However, it is also essential to take a look at the narrative that surrounds the characters that play a role in them, as it mirrors life, or in this case, the harsh Filipino experience and reality during the peak of the dictatorship of the former President Marcos. In contrast to the patriarchal and male-dominated nature of the time of martial law, women also played an essential role in it all. They were part of families, communities, and workforces among many other responsibilities they take upon. However, in history, as narrated by multiple researchers, across cultures, women have typically been stereotyped as more warm or communal, but less competent and agentic than men, therefore meaning that they are essentially expected to be a Maria Clara type of individual, the ideal Filipina woman who is demure, modest, and pure. Because of this, there would be a clear separation in terms of labor, especially when it came to gender roles and inequalities within the workplace. For instance, women were often seen in industries of cleaning, service, office work, nursing, and teaching professions. Yet, despite the variety in these industries, they are also known to be more underpaid than men workers, as their line of work is only seen as an extension of their domestic work. This makes women commonly subjected to white-collar and pink-collar work during these years, often finding them in offices or medical quarters. However, in the context of the Philippines under martial law, living conditions are worse than what is observable from the public eye, much more so in terms of work and economy. As we now reflect on this in cinemas of resistance, we now arrive to the question, how are women at work portrayed in films? In siyang Kisap Mata and Manila by Night by Lino Broca, Mike De Leon, and Ishmael Bernal, respectively, are three of the most prominent and outstanding masterpieces of their time. As significant pieces of this era in cinema, these will therefore be the principal basis of our discussion on this topic. In this discourse, we will tackle how people react to the nature of work that women get into, the characteristics of women, and the struggles and inequalities they experience in the context of the workplace. A notable theme that acquaints the three films together is sex. Throughout it all, women are seen exploring their sexualities while also honestly working, especially highlighted in Ishmael Bernal's Manila by Night. This is manifested through women characters laboring as masseuses at a sauna parlor or sex workers offering certain services in exchange for money. However, that being said, people who utilize their services do not question the nature of their work, but instead revel in the benefits provided by the labor. The same goes for other fields of work taken by women, such as Inshang from Lino Broca's film. She goes on to work as a laundry woman, constantly paid for her laundry services, not questions for her choice of occupation as her primary source of money. Women, as portrayed in the films for discussion, are persevering and earnest workers. They do whatever they can to earn a living, not ashamed of the nature of their occupation, working honestly regardless if a job pays well or not. The many female characters from Manila by Night are shown to have these qualities, along with Inshang and Mila from Lino Broca's Inshang and Mike De Leon's Kisap Mata respectively. Naming only some of the many female characters would be the following: Bea, a blind girl who works and earns as a masseuse at a sauna despite her disability.
Hindi ka ba nakasiwa?
Ba't ako makasiwa? Yung iba nga dyan nagmamalinis. Kalkalin mo buhay nila, ang baho-baho naman. Ako, kahit bulag ako, kumikita ako. Dyan nga ako inahangaan eh.
Adelina, a pretend nurse playing a double life as a sex worker at a brothel. Inshang, a laundry woman, independently washes and delivers her laundry to and from her clients.
Kumain ka na, kanina ko pa tinatawag ah.
Insyang, baka pwede mo naman kung ipasok kahit driver o gardener man namin sa pinaglalabahan mo.
And finally, Mila, a bank clerk willing to help her husband work for the amount of money demanded from him by her father.
Gusto ko sanang tulungan siya sa pag-ipon ng 10,000. Pero ang tatangang may hawak ng aking pera. Mabuti na lamang at nakahiram siya sa bangko.
Mukhang may pag-asa. Salamat kay Miss Olivares. Nasa main office na raw ang application ko. Ipa-follow up na lang doon niya yung release ng loan.
Nakakahiya sa'yo, Noel. Nagsisimula pa lang tayo, may utang ka na.
Oy, pagkasal na tayo, kung ano man ang utang ko, utang mo na rin.
The workplace, being predominated by men, makes it so that harassment and inequalities are still rampant. Similar to the stereotypes discussed in research, women were portrayed to be modest and physically inferior to men, making them primary targets of malicious intentions, violence, and harassment, often occurring both within and outside the workplace. With films within the cinemas of resistance characterized by sexual activity and violence, not all these events happen at home. Some instances where such attacks occur are within the workplace. And thus, here are some of them. Ludi, a sari-sari store vendor, gets inappropriately touched by a drunk man lunging around her storefront. Baby, a migrant working as a waitress at a restaurant, gets inappropriately offered to be set up with a Japanese in a casual conversation during her work hours.
Alam mo, mas malaki kikita mo kung papayag ang i-revoke ito sa mga mo. Kikita ka hanggang 700. Hindi ka pagod. Dito, pagod ka. Maliit ang kita, Maria-Maria.
However, these are not the only struggles experienced by women, as issues of underpayment were also prominent during this period, where although sex work is laborious, women still cannot get enough to make ends meet. This conversation between a well-off lady and a sex worker indicates that although women are hard workers, they may feel that their work would never be enough, nor will their salary ever be enough regardless of where they work.
Naku, alam mo, hirap na kami sa Misericordia ngayon eh. Alam mo naman, yung ginagawa namin, ginagawa ng mga sauna girls. Tapos, yung mga parak, ang taas ng hinihintong. Eh, alam mo naman, 30 pesos lang ako isang tsupa. Oh, eh sa 30, 12 lang napunta sa akin. Ano pa mangyayari sa buhay ko?
Huwag ka magagalit, ha? Bakit hanggang ngayon nandiyan ka pa rin?
Talagang ganun eh.
Ano talagang ganyan? Manyari kasi inisip mong hindi ka na magbabago.
Over time, as we stray away and progress from this dark part of Philippine history, the power of the Filipino people shone even more, and it is not without the help of every individual, regardless of age, background, and gender. Women at work, as depicted in cinemas of resistance, were not perfect, considering the narrative they were subjected to, both in film and reality. However, it is evident that it was a step forward from traditional beliefs, where women were not solely treated as oriental decoration, but as functioning members of society. Moreover, excluding themes of violence against women, there was respect given to their work. Notably, Manila by Night openly tackles and shows an unprejudiced community where the sexuality of women is not shamed, especially in the line of sex work. Today, the depiction of Filipino women is more vital than ever, following the advancement made 5 decades prior. By no means that the workplace is now an oasis for women, as assaults and inequalities still exist. However, their strength and resilience show how much their roles have changed over time, from being a damsel in distress to their very own knight in shining armor. As we wrap up the points made within this discussion, one thing is certain. It is that women are not only women. They are women who are part of families, communities, and workforces. They are women who fought. They are women who worked. And finally, they are women who made a difference.